Hello, hello! David Snowpeck here from Snowpeck Games. Welcome to the stream. Welcome, Ricardo. Welcome, The Clean. We got some cool characters, but Ricardo's already disappeared. I need a button on the overlay to bring all the characters back when I want to look at them. But yeah, if I remember, Ricardo got an orc character that looked pretty cool. Clean's got kind of a normal looking dude, a villager of some kind. I've got a mohawk and possibly a dress. I'm not sure. It's hard to tell with the blocky shape of our characters. Anyway, how is everyone doing? How are your game dev projects going? Playing anything cool? What is up, guys? It has been 2 weeks since the last stream. Last week I was out of town at MDev, which is a Game Developers Conference in Madison, Wisconsin. It was cool. I was feeling a little bit off that day, so I wasn't probably as social as I should have been for, going out to a in-person conference for the first time since 2019. But it was fun in any case. Got to connect with some game dev folks from the area that I know. Yeah. So, I am very excited for today's stream. We are going to be working on something that I have wanted to work on in WebXR for literal years. Yeah, I wasn't planning on starting it today. Actually, let's, before I get too deep into things, it always takes people a while to show up, so I'm going to do my usual and kind of like chat about other things that have been going on. I've been working on this WebXR change in Godot for a few weeks that got merged this week, which was exciting. That was adding OpenGL support to OpenXR. Previously, it just had Vulkan support, and now we can do OpenGL, which is only sort of tangentially related to WebXR, but we're going to be using some stuff from this PR today in the stream, which is cool. But yeah, this was not this one. This is a follow-up to the one. This one, when did this get merged? I think on Tuesday, possibly? Got merged 2 days ago, so that would be Wednesday then, I guess. I thought it was Tuesday, but November 9th. Yeah, I guess Wednesday. Anyway, this one was epic. I've been working on it a lot longer than the PR existed. I originally was planning to put this in an earlier PR, but it just got too big, and then I put it here. Yeah. So what we're going to be working on today is making it so that Godot renders directly to the device, to the textures that we get from WebXR, as opposed to what we're doing currently and what Godot 3 does also, which is rendering to a texture and then copying that texture to the actual. We previously get an FBO. We're going to end up getting textures because we're going to be using a new WebXR API that I'm going to talk about in a little bit. But skipping this copy, and this is really important, skipping this copy is going to bring a big performance boost to running on mobile, where mobile GPUs are not very happy about copying, big textures to another texture, because they do this sort of like tile-based thing that I don't totally understand, but it makes copying very, very slow. Ooh, what has everyone been doing? Yeah, Ricardo, I've been seeing some physics stuff going on from you. Improving cylinder collision detection in Godot. The Clean is reworking cube physics, how cubies behave when colliding with each other. I saw BIMDAV was doing some physics stuff too. I haven't seen BIMDAV around on the stream lately, I guess because we're doing WebXR stuff, and that's not really his jam. Maybe when we go back to doing networking things. But yeah, that's awesome. I may have said this on a previous stream, but Godot 4 is feeling a lot like a game project in that the whole thing is like sort of coming together at the last minute. Like, people have been working on Godot 4 for years and years and years, and it was kind of like a slushy mess for a very long time. And then all of a sudden, in these last couple of months, just like so many things are coming together. It's really cool. It's really cool to see it getting finished. Here we go. Here Ricardo's character is back. He's got like an orc with a beard with kind of the blacksmith overalls going and some long hair. It looks like that is a nice character. I like that character. All right, so yes, we are going to be trying to get Godot to render directly to the underlying resources that we're getting from WebXR, which wasn't what I was originally planning on working on today. I was originally planning on working on what we've been working on the last couple of streams, which is getting smartphone AR working so that we can port these changes from Godot 3 to input handling to Godot 4. But I think I figured out why that wasn't working. We were having a rendering issue where everything seemed to be correct, but nothing was appearing on the screen. And I think I figured that out. I think the issue is that my smartphone is giving a FBO that is multi-sampled, and we are trying to copy a texture to it that isn't multi-sampled, which is an invalid operation, and that's why nothing's happening. And part of the sort of way that I got there was by a cool thing that Meta just added to the Quest. I can actually run WebXR AR experiences on the Quest, and it uses the pass-through, which was really cool. They just released that, like they announced it at Connect, and then it just actually landed on my device. And I'm thinking, you know, AR isn't working on my phone, but I wonder if it works on the Quest, and it totally works. Totally works, which was a clue to help me sort of narrow down what was going on. But there's a couple of solutions to this non-multi-sampled to a multi-sampled texture problem that we could do, but it's possible, it's strongly possible that this thing I wanted to do anyway, having Godot render directly to the resources from WebXR, would also solve this problem. And since I wanted to do this anyway, in fact, I wanted to do this immediately after finishing the smartphone AR thing that we were working on, why not try this first? And if it solves both problems at once, like amazing, yay! And if it doesn't, well, we'll do something else. The other solution is rather than using GL Blit frame buffer to copy from the texture to the destination frame buffer, would be to make a shader to do it. So make a quad and then have a shader to draw everything from the first texture into the destination frame buffer, which we actually did do in earlier versions of WebXR. In fact, I'm like 99% sure that the Godot 3 version still does that. And then it was just in Godot 4 that we switched over to using Blit frame buffer, which also explains why this code that is almost the same between Godot 3 and Godot 4 works on Godot 3 and not on Godot 4. So anyway, if doing this switch doesn't work, we'll do the other thing. That's fine. We may have to do the other thing anyway for compatibility because we are relying on a newer WebXR spec, WebXR layers. Actually, I have a link to it. I have a link to the spec right in here. This one, is this the actual spec or is this some demos and stuff? This is the spec. So what's interesting is I was first working on WebXR support in Godot like between September and like December of 2020, and I didn't even know that this spec existed, but it came into existence like while I was working on it originally. There's like a changelog in here somewhere. Yeah, so the first public working draft of this spec was December 3rd, 2020. So like right in the middle of me first trying to get WebXR working in Godot 3. So I was not aware of this until pseudo recently, like maybe a year ago. I just completely wasn't on my radar. But this new spec allows you to not just get an FBO, a frame buffer object from WebXR and render to that. It lets you get the actual like underlying color, depth, and velocity textures from the hardware, which makes it actually like a lot more similar to OpenXR and the information that we get from OpenXR in order to render, and allows you to do a bunch of other really cool things. You get access to like the XR compositor, and you can create different layers in the compositor. We are only going to be messing around with creating a projection layer, which is like the normal thing that you see through your two eyeballs when you're in VR. The other things are really cool though, because you can get the hardware to do more things for you, and also have different settings for the different layers. So something that has driven me crazy in doing VR stuff with Godot is that anytime I put a UI, like a 2D UI on a panel in VR, it just looks terrible. Like the resolution's really low, the anti-aliasing looks wrong, it is so frustrating. But you can like create a special layer for the compositor, which could have a higher resolution. You can tell it like, hey, this is just like a flat thing that I want to put in here. And then it can make it look crisp and beautiful. So that's a cool thing that maybe we can take advantage of later. Cube layer you can use to draw the skybox, to draw the sky. And it can do things in hardware for you that otherwise you would be doing yourself that can, I guess, make it look better. I don't know. I have yet to use it, but I'm excited about the possibilities. Yeah, so using this API, the Clean says these separate layers sound like a recipe for reprojection, lets you access space warp or time warp. I get always confused about space warp, the two technologies from Oculus, which helps with things like reprojection. But yeah, it's really cool. And I'm excited to try to use it. In fact, I was so excited about working on this. Like last night when I decided, like, ooh, let's do this. I started working on it already last night because I was just too excited. I couldn't wait. So I've implemented part of it. None of it works yet. But yeah, let's take a look. So the thing that I was saying from this PR that recently got merged was that the ability to override the depth, color, and velocity texture of a render target was something that I added to the OpenGL renderer in this PR, which is essential to doing what we are trying to do. Where's the code for that? I think that is in texture storage. So Bastian added these methods to the texture storage, which is so he originally actually added 3 separate methods, but in my work I collapsed into a single method. But this render target set override lets you override the color texture, depth texture, velocity texture for a render target, which allows us to take a Godot render target and say, hey, use this texture I got from WebXR, this color, depth, and velocity texture. I actually don't think we're going to deal with the velocity texture because that is going to require a whole bunch more work to make that whole thing actually happen. But that's another thing that I would like to work on in the future. And it does some cool caching on the back end. So if you, the way this works in WebXR, or I'm sorry, in OpenXR, and I'm assuming it's actually going to be the same in WebXR, but we'll see when we stick some debugging code in there, is that there isn't a single color, depth, and velocity texture. There's in fact a swap chain. So the hardware will actually give us, or I guess the driver probably is really doing it, but the driver and or hardware is giving us 2 or 3 sets of these color, depth, and velocity textures, and then every frame it's swapping through them for double or triple buffering, right? So every single frame, we're probably switching which textures we're actually using. And so then I implemented this caching thing in here that will keep a set of cached frame buffers. So then when we pass in the same sort of set of textures together, rather than switching those on the frame buffer, it actually just says, oh, okay, now we're going to use this frame buffer, which should be faster, I think. With the caveat that rendering is not my main expertise, but so yeah, let's dig in here. Let's make this happen. So I can kind of walk you through what I did already. There's a lot of things that I don't know about how this API works because I've never used the WebXR Layers API. Oh, I should also say the WebXR Layers API, this spec, is not working in all browsers yet, but there is a polyfill, which theoretically, if it works, again, I haven't actually used it, will make it so that if the Layers API isn't actually supported, it will just copy from, like, it'll make up its own textures and just copy from those textures to the FBO. So essentially doing what we were doing before when layers isn't actually supported by the browser, but then when it is, we can directly access those layers and do this direct rendering. So rather than us having to write this special shader that's going to copy those textures, we can rely on the WebXR layers polyfill having already included that texture, or not texture, that shader to do that for us. So we'll see. But yeah, so this is kind of the old way of setting up WebXR. You do this base layer thing, and then that gives us an FBO on the end. I'm doing it here during initialization because I don't actually know if we need to have something set up. So it's possible that we don't need this at all, but it's setting this up initially because we don't have enough information yet to set up our layers. We need to know how many views the device has. So is it, stereo, so 2 views, or is it like smartphone AR, a single view? And we don't get to know that until we actually get tracking information. I don't know why it's connected to the tracking information, but later on, when we have that, that's the pose that you get from WebXR, we can see how many views we have, and then where do I have the code that creates the layer? Somewhere up here. I must have gone past it. Here it is. So yeah, we need the pose, which is where we get tracking info, which will tell us that we have how many views. If we have greater than 1 view, we make a texture array. If there's only 1, we do a texture. And then, the color and depth formats that Godot is usually using for the render target. And then we call that update render state method again, but instead of passing a base layer, we're passing in this new projection layer that we made. And then when we are down rendering, or actually, no, we don't do rendering in here anymore. We don't. All we do is pass back some textures. So we'll say get color texture. And actually where I want to be looking is at this method. And so then we're able to grab this view sub image from the layer. We have to give it a specific view because if you're not doing a texture array, it might be doing the thing where there's a single FBO and then you're drawing the left eye to this side of it and the right eye to this side of it. I'm hoping, because of I wrote this comment, wishful thinking, because we are always using a texture array for multi-view and texture when there's only 1 view, it should be safe to just grab the sub-image for the first view, and then that will cover everything, I think, I hope. We'll find out. And then this sub-image will give us a actual texture object. So yeah, we're able to get subimage.colorTexture, and then we have this code that is attempting to pass over the JavaScript C++ boundary here, and it's taking this color texture object, registering it with an ID in mscripten, and then we're passing that ID back to C++, which I have done before. I'm not sure if it's going to work the same way here. We will see. This get texture ID is trying to be a little clever, and it's possible that this kind of cleverness isn't going to work. So we're getting a new ID from like the pool of IDs that mscripten is using. We're assigning that ID to a property on the texture object so that we know which ID it is. This is something mscripten also does, and then we're storing it in this like table of textures where mscripten is mapping from the ID to the object. And then if we do this again for the same texture, my hope is that this property will still be there. It might not, though. It's possible that like underneath, WebXR is actually going to generate a new texture object in JavaScript, like a new instance of this class, even though it represents the exact same texture on the hardware. That is a possibility. And in that case, this name property won't be there. And if that's true, this check that we're doing up here to try and look up what the name of the texture is just totally not going to work. It's going to generate a new ID for every single time it grabs the same texture, and we're going to have to change this code to, rather than just looking here, to like loop through and maybe check object identity, which will hopefully be the same if it's the same texture. I don't know. We will deal with that when we come to it. But that's basically everything I did. That's all the stuff. And I was running it last night, and it didn't work. And so let's try and see what is going wrong and if we can fix it. So I'm gonna go over to my test project. Let's see if any of this stuff is still here. It is. We are going to export the project. All right, and then I'm going to make a new terminal where we are going to run Nginx. And then we're going to open this up in the WebXR emulator, and hopefully something good will happen. Yeah, Nginx. And hopefully the WebXR emulator handles this well too. I should probably have tried to run, sorry for the yawns, I was up too late working on this. I should probably have tried to run a sample project that uses the layers API in the emulator just to verify that the emulator actually handles it. We might end up in a situation where I have to use a real device to test this. I hope not. It's so nice being able to use the emulator. All right. Let's enter VR. And this sort of almost looks like it rendered something. Down here, we get generating texture or generating ID for texture. That's from that method we were just looking at. Oh, yeah. And I looked into this a little bit. So we're getting this type error, cannot read properties of undefined. Reading is enabled. And basically, when I looked at the code reference, will this take us there? Yeah. This GL object is supposed to be the OpenGL context, and apparently it's null. It's null. So calling gl.isEnabled glblend is erroring out. So we need to figure out, are we failing to pass in the GL context somewhere? And that's why it's null, or what the heck is going on? Okay, so this is XR session with layer. Where does it get GL from? Is polyfill active? Is this initialized views? So this is this just like part of the initialization process here? Injected frame callback. Okay, let GL equal this.context. So this.context is null when it should be an actual context. Where and how is that context set is the question. If I do Control F, will it search from here? I hope. Context. Yes, it is. Sweet. Set layer, create projection layer. Oh, create projection renderer. Context is sure getting used a lot. Need to. Okay, so update render state init. It is setting context, but that's not this dot context. That's like a local variable context. So undefined. Let layer of this layers layer instance x composition layer polyfill. Oh geez, the fans have kicked in my laptop. What am I doing that's making it so unhappy? Oh, probably this page is like hot looping. Maybe not. I don't know. I don't know why my fans have kicked in. Let's just keep reading this code. If not context and not this.context, no existing context of the session, make one. That's weird. Okay, well I can already see we call this method initially with layers not existing, and it goes to this other code path. I remember I was telling you guys I didn't know if we needed to do that first initialization of rendering. Let's just try removing that. So rather than initializing it the old way and then switching to the new way, which I know is allowed, I read through this in the spec. It is possible to switch between doing the old base layer way and the new layers way, and the implementation is supposed to let you do that and just transition from the one mode to the other. In fact, it said some really scary things in there that, like, the device is not guaranteed to have the same number of views through the whole session, which I'm like, whoa, if there's a device that actually does that, it's going to break everything, because we are making the assumption that once the session starts, like, the device is not going to suddenly have more, you know, eyeballs on it. But let's see. So we'll compile this one. Compile, Godot, compile. And see if that helps us. I see that my eyeball count has gone up. Welcome all new viewers to the stream. Feel free to say something. They'll know who's here, who's watching. You'll get a little character on the screen. Makes me feel less alone. Talking to the wall in my office. Yeah, and of course, when we do a C++ stream, all of the compiling, so much compiling. Trying to think of some things to talk about. Has anyone played the Iron Man VR? It just came to the Quest a week ago, I think, maybe 2 weeks ago. I'm not sure. I played it. It was super fun. I get terrible VR sickness though, and I even actually I tried taking some of these motion sickness tablets that someone on Amazon actually reviewed it and said it helps them with VR sickness. So I'm like, yes, that one, that's what I want. And it either didn't help fully or didn't help at all, because I felt quite sick after playing Iron Man VR. It's an awesome game though. It's really cool. Just for people who are prone to motion sickness, you may not have a very good experience. All right, where is our terminal here? Okay, so we compiled. We need to re-export. And then we will refresh and see what happens. I like hitting this test button because that verifies for me that Godot hasn't crashed. If the test button works. All right, let's see. Enter VR. Okay. Well, we didn't crash. It isn't working. But we didn't crash. So I guess it seems as though the polyfill is not happy about us switching between base layer and layers. So we learned that. Also, this appears to not be working much more fundamentally. So before, even though it was crashing, we actually did get that message about it allocating an ID for the texture, which if we're not getting that message means it's not allocating an ID for the texture, and so like nothing is working right now. The session started, but it's just dropping somewhere. So perhaps we do need to initialize rendering right away before things will work, but it's unhappy about us initializing rendering the old way and then the new way. Do we have to somehow initialize the new way right away? And how do we do that without knowing how many views there are? That's a tricky problem. The Clean, I remember the old Spider-Man game. They pulled it off from the Steam for some reason. Oh, they took it down from Steam? Probably a licensing thing. That happens a lot of times where a game that's based on some other IP is made, and then they only actually have the rights to sell that game for like 5 years or something, and then the license they had expires. But yeah, I did play that at a VR arcade for a couple of minutes, but I started playing it and knew right away that this was going to cause me some VR sickness problems. I didn't play it for very long. But yeah, there's a VR arcade in Green Bay, which is not too far from me, that had some HTC Vives. All right, so what are we going to do here? We can, since we know that we have two views, I'm just going to try initializing the layer right away and see if that works. If it works, then we're going to enter the conundrum of how do we deal with the fact that we don't actually know the number of views at this point. But we'll at least know what we're dealing with. So let me find get layer. Yeah, so we're going to have to change this a little bit. VS Code interacting badly with the Vim plugin there. So we need to get back to get layer. So this check will not pass because we won't have the pose yet. And I think I actually need to rearrange some codes that will have the GL binding, but it's fine to get it there. We create the projection layer, and we are going to just say we're making a texture array. Yeah, now that I'm thinking about this, what we could do is make a, like, initialize. So if the problem is just switching between old method and new method, we could use the new method right away to create just a texture, assuming we have only one view. And then once we know the number of views, update the render state to say, hey, actually, we want a texture array. And maybe that would work. I don't know. So let's go down to during initialization here. We need to, so we do create the GL binding right there. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to say, we don't even really need to keep the layer, but we'll create the layer here, WebXR or Godot WebXR, get layer. I mean, maybe we could inspect some of its properties, and that might be useful. We'll print out the layer to the console. Let's give this a try. Hopefully, we'll be able to poke around enough in here to figure out how this works. If we don't manage to make any progress, what we might have to do is make a little like test project that's just pure JavaScript that interacts with WebXR rather than trying to do this inside of Godot, because that would allow us to iterate a lot quicker. We can just change the JavaScript and reload the page, and it'll allow us to do much more drastic things, where when we're within the structure of Godot, we kind of have to do things in the order and in the way that Godot is making easy for us. Or if we're going to like switch it around, it's like a lot of work, right? And just being able to experiment and quickly try things is useful. Okay, so we have recompiled. We'll re-export. So we can retest. Okay. Enter VR. This half sort of works. Yeah. So the texture is the wrong size. The texture is absolutely the wrong size. Or no, maybe we're just in a weird place. Hang on. The texture is the wrong size. But otherwise, it's working. It's working. Okay, so how... let's figure out why the texture is the wrong size. Where will we do that? So we have get render target size, and it is getting the texture width, texture height. That's very strange that that's coming up wrong. Like, it's telling us, here's the layer, here's this thing. Wait, let me look at, here's a projection layer, which layout default, that's nice. I was worried about what the layout was going to be. Texture height and texture width. Yep, that is the wrong height and width. That is wrong. Or is it just differently right? Hang on. Let me think through this. So we are getting a texture that's the whole size of here, but we're getting a texture array. So I bet if we divide this by 2, it's going to be right, but that's not a safe thing to do generally, right? We need WebXR to tell us the dimensions of this texture. But just for the heck of it, let's divide by 2 and then cast it to an int. How do you cast to an int in JavaScript? I don't remember. They're all the only type in JavaScript is number. JavaScript cast float to int. Okay, I guess we just floor it and then it'll work out one way or another. Okay. Let's give this a try. And if it works, I mean, we know we just need to somehow get the right texture width from somewhere. Another thing that would be useful to try is trying it on an actual device and see if this is an issue with the emulator in specific or if it's a fundamental problem. So let's give this a shot. And then I will try on the Quest and we'll see what happens. This stream's already going quite well. So many streams, I'm like banging my head against a problem and like, nothing's working, nothing's working. This is actually like, it's partially working. It's partially just kind of working. We just have to frobulate some dials here, move around some sliders, figure out how to massage this into doing exactly what we need it to do. And then also I should test it on my phone, see if this solves the smartphone AR rendering issue. Wait, what? Okay, so I started Nginx, but it didn't start because I already had Nginx running from this directory. Okay, that's fine, I guess. Let's try it. Enter VR. Other than us being in a weird spot, oh, because I moved it around. No, this is perfect. Okay, so we're getting the wrong texture width, but otherwise, we're getting not the value that we personally need for the texture width. Because I'm thinking is it might be accurate just like in a different frame of thinking from a different perspective. This is working. Let me try it on the Quest. So that you guys can see what I'm doing on the Quest, I will set up streaming here. It's oculus.com/what? Oh my god, it's been so long since I've done this. Cast. Hey! Alright, let's log in. Okay. Give me a moment while I get my headset going here. All right, even though I have the Quest Pro, I have not really integrated it into my development workflow here. I don't think it's even in developer mode presently. Okay, how do I get casting going again? Where is the casting button? I don't remember how to do this. Oh my god, it's been so long. Guardian link Wi-Fi. Settings? No, it doesn't seem like the right place. How do I cast? Does this button help me? No. Does not. Someone's probably screaming at me, go to whatever menu. Nope, no one's helping me. Thanks, guys. Am I gonna have to like Google this? Because I just don't remember how to get to casting. Pass through, reset view, blah, 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 blah. I don't know. I am so lost right now. I know when you're in a game, you can press this button, and then it'll be on like the pause menu. But I'm not in a game, I'm in the web browser. And when I press this, it does nothing. Okay, what if I enter VR and then press it? Nope, that just takes me out. Am I gonna have to launch a game? Oh, here we go. There's a button on the toolbar that looks like the little sharing arrow. Okay. Sorry for being an idiot and not finding that. All right, can you guys see what I'm seeing? All right. Okay, so here's some videos I took while playing No Man's Sky and apparently fishing, real VR fishing. And I need to go to the browser. Here we go. Browser. Refresh. And let's see what happens when it loads. Here we go. Enter VR. Ooh, that's not good. Okay, we're totally broken. Totally broken. Hey, Elliot! Welcome to the stream. Thanks for coming, man. It's been a while since we've chatted. Okay, I wonder if the thing I did to fix the emulator has broken it on the Quest. You guys couldn't really see it, but it was flashing and everything was squished. I think you could sort of see the squished thing. Yeah, that it's not the right dimensions there. So let's go back to the way the code was before we modified it for the way the emulator was acting and recompile that. Compiling. The clean says it's in the browser. Is it like a browser? Is it like a button? Oh, geez, I cannot look at this. The flashing, the terrible flashing. Is there like a button on the browser, like browser window thing that lets me do it? Well, anyway, I found it anyway. On the bar at the bottom, the little arrow is sharing. Cool. Ooh, I'm still in there. You're like a mad scientist. Thank you, Elliot. I take that as a compliment. I would love to be a mad scientist. Alexei Smirnov says, hi, guys. In the PC browser are instructions. Yes, some JavaScript. Some JavaScript. Confusing JavaScript in that it interfaces with C++, but it is still some JavaScript. All right, we have compiled. We are going to export. It is 100% a compliment. I am jealous. Well, thank you for your 100% compliment. Okay, let's, I guess, back in here. Let me bring the window back up for you guys. We will refresh. And we will Enter VR. Okay. Everything's the right size now, but everything is flashing and tracking is not working. Oh. So it was sitting on the screen, the instructions telling me what to do was like on the screen and you guys were looking at it the whole time? Awesome. Okay. So I don't know what's happening in there, so we are going to need to connect the headset to my computer and sorry about that. And we're going to kill this. And we're going to bring up, yes, allow. Where's my finger? Well, this is weird. Cool. And we're going to need to bring up the Chrome remote debugger. Oh, geez, I cannot look at this flashing. Why is it not coming through? Usually it just doesn't come through when I don't hit allow on the thing, but I did hit allow. All right, we'll hit allow again. Try refreshing this page. No. What is going on that it's not showing me? Sometimes this can be like ADB issues. Let me go over to, I guess that's Android. Is it Platform Tools? Android SDK Platform Tools. ADB devices. List of attached devices. Nothing. It's nothing there. That is a problem. All right. What is it? Kill server? Whatever the thing is that gets the ADB daemon to restart. Try again. I think every other frame. It feels like every other frame. But tracking is also not working. So when I was working on the OpenGL OpenXR thing, there was a flashing every other frame. That was because I wasn't dealing with the swap chain correctly. But tracking still worked, right? So right now we're getting the flashing and tracking is busted. So I'm assuming there is some error coming into the console, crashing everything because tracking is failing to work. If I could just get in there and see what the console is giving me. I may try rebooting the headset. Anyone who owns a Quest knows that they get weird over time. And it may just work after I reboot it. Yep, all right, time to reboot. While I was in there, I should have shown you guys the AR in the Quest, which is so cool because what other stereo AR devices are there? Like the HoloLens, the Magic Leap. These are all like multi-$1,000 devices that I am not going to have. And of course, like with the Quest Pro, there's like cool new pass-through features. But being able to do it in WebXR is so cool. I'm actually going to take this out until we get booted up. All right, unlock my account. Oh, well, I don't know. I just put that in there right now. Okay. Yes, allow. Confirm. And open up browser. Goat Church is online. It's another Godot XR aficionado contributor. What the heck is going on? I mean, this is what we want right here. Discover USB devices. Enable remote debugging of Chrome over Android or raw USB. No need to install. Run Android debug bridge. That's not discovering it. This is frustrating. I just tried refreshing the page one more time to see if that might help. Okay, let's try taking the plug out and putting it back in again. It's hard to find. Where are you? Okay. Why is connected to the file save? Allow. It doesn't ask me for debug permission though, which seems strange. It usually asks me 2 things, and it's only asking me 1 thing. Let's go look at ADB again. It's still not detecting it in ADB, which is not a great sign. Maybe Godot is running on a different frame rate, and WebXR is filling in the gaps with blackness. The 3x is running on 30 FPS by default. Maybe. My personal theory at the moment is that we are rendering a single frame, or we're rendering a single eye, right? And then crashing. And so then Godot is stopped running, but we've already filled the device left eye texture, or not one eye, no, one frame, one whole frame, because I am seeing it in stereo. Okay, so here's my theory from the top, is that we are rendering one frame and then crashing, and then it is going through the rest of the swap chain. Like it's just alternating through the swap chain, and we've only filled one of those, one of the pieces of the swap chain, one of the buffers on the swap chain. And since we're not changing anything, we're not filling any of the others, that's why we're getting the flashing, that the blank ones are the blank buffers. Anyway, I have no idea if that is correct. I have no idea why this isn't working. What else to try? Sudo ADB devices? No. Possibly, maybe smarter. I don't know. It's a guess at this point. But I need to see the error. I need that error. This totally worked the last time we did it on stream. I don't know why it's not working now. One thing to try, I'm doing this in Brave. Let's try, I'm sure my Chrome is outdated. Let's do sudo apt update. And let's update Chrome to the latest version. Let's run Chrome instead of Brave and see if that works. What is it called? Search Chrome. Okay, this is not helping me so far. Chrome GNOME Shell. Chrome Remote Desktop. That's some interesting stuff that I don't exactly know what it is. Google Chrome Stable. Okay. Apt install Google Chrome Stable. All right, we are updating from Chrome 104 to Chrome 107. And then we're going to launch it, and it's going to do some wacky stuff that I don't like because I have not reconfigured my Chrome after I stopped using it. Or no, it didn't. Okay, cool. It used to like open up a whole ton of windows and frames and stuff because when I used it on a daily basis, I actually did want it to do that. But okay, inspect devices. Still nothing. I don't see why port forwarding would have to do anything with USB devices, but I just had the thought that, like, what if I temporarily turn off my firewall, which hopefully won't kill the stream. I hope. Let's find out. That does not seem to have done anything good. Let's try again. Where did I have ADB open? Somewhere. Or maybe I killed that terminal. Android SDK platform tools ADB kill server. ADB devices. This is a world of frustrating. Okay, well, I'm going to re-enable my firewall just so I don't forget to do that. And then let's try running SideQuest, since even though SideQuest is just using ADB, sometimes magically works better. I don't know why. No device connected. Okay, well, my computer is definitely not seeing it. That we have established. Why is it not seeing it? Let's kill Chrome. I don't really want to deal with it being running. I'm going to stop its little applet there too. I guess let's Google. Oculus Quest 2 Linux USB. I guess let's say ADB. So we're not trying to like play link over it. We just want to. These all look like some interesting possibilities here. I wonder if my headset has gone out of developer mode. That's a thing that's happened before. Hang on. Oculus Quest developer mode. I'm just gonna look up how to do that. Randomly, it's taken itself out of developer mode before. Do I have to do it on mobile device? Okay, I guess I'll be able, if I go into settings and I see developer, then I know that I have it in developer mode, and then I guess I have to do it on my phone, which is weird. Okay. Settings. I do not see a developer section. Okay, let's try this. Come on, Meta. Okay, enable developer mode. Open the app. Tap setting. Do I have to go to my? Yeah. Okay. Select my Quest 2. Or no, I don't want to. don't want to cast. Hang on. Menu. Settings. Follow steps. Settings bottom right. Select your quest from the device list and connect to it. I'm confused. Devices. MetaQuest. Developer mode. It is turned off. Come on, developer mode me. All right. I don't know if that takes effect immediately or what. Let me go in here and see if I see a developer menu now. No, here. Experimental account center places. Well, okay, so I'm not seeing it, but let's try. Let's just try this again, see if it's coming through now. Pending authorization. Okay, that's a good sign. Oh, here we go, here we go. Allow USB debugging. That's exactly what I want. That's exactly what I want. Okay. Hey! There we go. AJ Slay, it says to reboot. I missed that step. Thank you for catching that, AJ. However, it turns out, oh yeah, and reboot your quest. I should have read that. I did not read the instructions, but it's working now. So yeah, here we go. Let me enter VR and see what our error is. Whew. Sorry for taking so long to figure that out, guys. All right, terrible blinking, terrible blinking. Yes. All right, we did crash. So I think my theory might be right. We've crashed, so we're not filling any more of the things in the swap chain. Clear buffer, draw elements. So the frame buffer is incomplete. That is interesting. We are going to need to insert some debug statements to try and figure out how we are getting incomplete. Where's the right place to do that? So we will go to where the frame buffer is being built. I see also that we're only generating one texture. So is it happening during the course of running a single frame? Or is it definitely reusing the texture? I don't know. Okay, let's go look at the code. I guess, yeah, let's go to texture storage where we're building the frame buffer. Or no, okay, let's start even earlier than that. Let's go to render viewport. And, or no, okay, let's not go earlier, let's go later. Sorry, I keep changing my mind here. Let's try and track down the specific code where this is going wrong. We'll go to the end, we'll go to the beginning, and we'll figure this out. Okay, so clear buffer fv gl draw elements. Let's search the code for these gl draw elements. This, I guess, is the actual draw call. Rasterizer scene. So I'm willing to bet that this is that actual line there. Let's just poke around a little bit. Yeah, and so before this, we're probably clearing the buffer. Where is that? So we have also clear buffer fv. So gl clear buffer fv. All right, Ah, stupid Vim bindings. Okay. And was it GL clear? I bet it was this one. GL clear. Yep. Depth buffer bit. That actually seems sort of odd to clear just the depth buffer. Or I guess maybe the thinking is we're going to draw over. Okay, well, in any case, I think that's it. There's probably some other GL clears in here. And then our draw elements was down here, or was it somewhere else? Hang on. Where was our GL draw elements? Okay, so this is the actual draw call. What method is this in? Okay, yeah, render list template. So that does come right after. So we had this clear buffer, followed by render list template, and that's where the actual draw call is happening. Okay, so at this point, for some reason, the frame buffer is incomplete. Where are we switching to the frame buffer? We're switching to the frame buffer right here. And this comes from texture storage. I'm curious. Well, let's look in texture storage. And we may want to re-enable this print statement I was using for debugging earlier. And I want to go to set overridden. Okay, so our code is putting together this color texture, this depth texture, which eventually winds up here in render target set override. And then here we assign some stuff to different member variables. We ultimately end up in update render target. Which creates the frame buffer. And so I guess what I want to know, and this should actually check if the frame buffer is complete at the end. Or I thought it did. Yeah. So here, check frame buffer status. It should actually be checking if this frame buffer is complete. I wonder if the frame buffer is becoming 0, which is supposed to be the screen, but in the context of XR, like there is no screen. Or at least in the context of XR on the Quest, there is no screen. So let's where were we before? I want to see right here with this FBO, what is it? So printf, we'll say rt FBO equals D and rt FBO. So we're hoping that this will just be some arbitrary smallish integer, but if it's 0, we're in trouble. And what else can we check? I always like to put a lot of debug statements in when we're doing C++, because we got to compile. Okay, so here we're creating it. What I want to know, I mean, it should never end up in a situation where there are no textures, because it either takes the texture from the override, which is here, or it creates a new one. So if it creates a new one instead of taking the override, like then it won't render, which is a problem, but that's not the problem we're having right now. We are not getting this warning, could not create render target, unless I missed it. Generating an ID for texture. We know that things are working on a sort of surface level because it worked in the emulator. We could still be doing something totally wrong, though. Sometimes the emulator will accept wrong things or not accept right things, because that's just the nature of emulators. So I would have expected this to fail earlier. Hang on. Let's add a printf for this. About to clear new render target after creation. And this warning doesn't appear, which leads me to believe this probably isn't happening, but let's add a printf anyway. If, let's say render target has incomplete buffer. And is that everything that I can think of to test here? Let's try it. Let's try it. Compile. Doing the compile dance. All right. Clean up some windows here. Oh, and it should be showing me the device now? No, it's still not showing the device. That's so lame. It's working though, so I don't care. Anybody have anything exciting going on this weekend? My pa's coming to visit for the weekend, which I'm excited about. My daughter's birthday, my younger daughter's birthday, is on Monday. So we're going to do a little bit of birthday stuff while he's here. He won't actually be here for her birthday. I'm super excited to give her presents. I'm excited to play with some of her presents. Okay, let's give this a try. Ooh, the flashing. Oh, it's terrible. Refresh. Okay, cool. So it's got an FBO that's doing some things. Let's enter VR and the terrible flashing, but let's see what's going on over here. Okay, so creating render target with these dimensions, view count 2. That's a little odd that it's creating a render target and then we just destroy the render target like a moment later, but RTFBO. Interesting. Okay, so here's what I see. I see we're creating an FBO. It appears to work. It appears to work once, because we have the number 2 here, which that's our first frame being rendering, and then it fails a second time. Which is weird. Because you would expect if the frame buffer was really incomplete, that checking the frame buffer status would have told us that. Or no, it wouldn't have, because we're not creating it. Okay, so we created it, and it worked. And now we're trying to use the same FBO again on the next frame, and it's telling us incomplete. Is this thing still going? Yeah, it's still going. So maybe we're supposed to be getting new textures, but we're just not getting new textures. Right? Like, there's a swap chain at work here, and it's just not giving us anything new. And maybe this works in the emulator because it doesn't have a swap chain. You probably wouldn't expect the emulator to have one, but a real device would. Yet we are not swapping. Okay, so let's test that theory by going to the JavaScript code. Why did I type Java? That's what I typed. What I was thinking, and not the file name that would get me there. And we're saying get color texture, which goes to this get subimage. This get subimage is grabbing our layer, which we shouldn't be recreating. Like, it should be the same layer every time. I'm just gonna add a creating layer, and actually we'll do it below. Creating layer. Get the layer, we say get view subimage. Only doing this one view, which, like, I know is weird, but I don't think is our problem. Oh, it's weird that I'm doing this. I should do like that, but it should make no difference. Those two things should have the same value. Get subimage gives us this subimage thing. Passing in a texture. If it has a name, we return it. If it doesn't, generate the texture. I was going to say, what if it's the same object, but something underlying about the object has changed? But that doesn't make any sense. Then things should just work still. Unless, like, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to look at this sample project from the Immersive Web group, the people who maintain WebXR, and we're just going to see if they're doing something we're not doing. Where is... Here we go. Spec sample project. I'm a little bit curious about what it's doing with the samples. Hang on. I'm going on a tangent. Oh, interesting. So, so far I haven't integrated this support for multi-sample textures. What I would like to eventually, because we want to do MSAA in WebXR to get some anti-aliasing, or at least have the possibility to do MSAA. It might be too slow in the context of WebXR. You might want to do FXAA. But anyway, hey, Cyber Habanero, welcome to the stream. You got a dude with a sailor hat and some soldering wear there. Okay. So, I want to see what they're doing every frame. That's what I'm curious about. So, on XR frames, this is happening every single frame. It is looping through the views It is getting a subimage. It is binding this frame buffer that was created in the code here. It isn't from WebXR. And it is attaching the texture every single frame. I'm going to say that seems slow. That seems like something that would not be very fast. I'm a little surprised at that. So it's making the assumption that even if the texture is the exact same texture as it was last frame, it's still going to call frame buffer texture multiview OVR and attach it as color attachment 0. I still start too early for Europeans? I start too early for North Americans. I don't know who I'm on time with. Most of the people who come to my stream actually I think are Europeans, to be honest. Because this is like during, you know, prime working hours in North America. But yeah, what would be a good time for Europeans, Cyber Habanero? Like just a couple hours later, so you're like totally off of work? So we can do what this is doing by killing the caching thing that I made. That whole caching thing I was bragging about earlier is what's making us not reattach this to the frame buffer every frame. What's a quick hacky way to do that? Andreas Friedel says it's 5:30 p.m. in Germany right now. Perfect time. Still at work. Don't tell my boss. I won't tell your boss, Cyber Habanero. Okay, so I'm going to take this headset off because it is a little bit uncomfortable. And we are going to take a look at the caching that works beautifully for OpenXR. Beautifully. But may be breaking everything here. So we don't need to be efficient. We just need to test the theory. Once we know what the problem is, we can try to come up with an efficient way to do it. But in the meantime, I think what we are going to do is every single frame, we are going to clear the render target, which I think will dispose of the FBO, I think. I should verify that. Yes, it will. And then we are going to set overridden color to P color texture, RT overridden depth to P depth texture. And I know I have to set is overridden. Okay, yeah, so we'll just plain set it. Well, okay, we'll set it if either of those are not empty. So if P color texture is valid or P depth texture is valid, then set this to overridden, and then we update render target, which should create a new FBO with those attachments. And we're going to comment out all this stuff. All this stuff is fancy caching to be efficient. So let's compile that. I think that's correct. I hope that's correct. It's going to be annoying if the problem is the caching. I don't know how we would go about disabling the caching just for WebXR, but then keeping it for OpenXR. I mean, we could return a new resource, a new Godot resource every frame. So the caching is based on, well, then we're just going to have a huge cache, though. Another possibility is like directly messing with the FBO from WebXR, but I don't want to do that. Like these APIs exist for a reason. But we can. We're already directly interfacing with the texture storage for other things, but real simple, tiny things. Okay, that finished compiling, right? I'm not imagining that. Let's re-export, see what we get. And I'm gonna have to put the headset back on. All right. Let's get in here. Why do I see nothing? Nothing at all. Okay, here we go. So that's refreshing. Are we seeing it refresh there? We are. Loading. Okay, enter VR. It's working. It works. It's working. Okay, we learned a ton of things about how this API needs to be used in order to work. And we need to change our code from this sort of temporary figuring out what the heck is going on to like some real solutions to these problems. So the caching is a problem. I'd kind of like to address that problem first. Let me think here. We want to have the same texture resource come back, but we need to somehow refresh this texture resource in a way that satisfies WebXR layers. But this is so cool. You guys should see it. You guys are missing out on the glory of this cube. Join me in cube land here. All right, am I in? You guys see it? The cube! I should make some notes, actually, about all the things that we learned here. And I'll take the headset off, too. Thank you for joining me in Cubeland, Elliot. Oh, you have to roll? Well, thanks for coming, man. Catch you later. We do have to get together sometime soon and have some coffee. All right. This has been like such a successful stream in the sense of like the things we try just kind of work. Like, of course, the whole thing doesn't work, but like, all hail the cube, says the queen. But the fact that like we're just knocking these things down, it feels good. Okay, so I was gonna take some notes. Is what I was gonna do. Come on, go back. Okay, so issues to fix. Caching breaks. Or I should say, FBO caching on render targets breaks rendering. Breaks rendering. Get incomplete FBO error when operating on FBO. And there was the thing with the emulator reports layer texture width double the size we need to give to Godot as the render target size. But the quest does not. Okay, what were some of the other things? Let me look at the diff, and then we'll see all of the magic hacks we had to do here. Oh, okay. Emulator breaks if we do session update render something. What is that method called? Update render state. Do update render state base layer before switching to layers. Even though this is valid per the spec. And I didn't test if that works on the quest, but I'm assuming it would. I think that's an emulator bug. Okay, so we have 2 emulator bugs. Was that everything? I think so. Okay, so the 2 emulator bugs, we want to have the same code run on the emulator and on an actual device. And yeah, we're going to need a solution to how to create the projection layer before we know how many views there are. That's the last thing, or the first thing. I don't know. Which actually is kind of, yeah, it's combined with this one. These 2 are related, these 2 points. So how to create the projection layer before we know how many views the device has. The device has not setting up render state right away prevents us from getting tracking data, which is when we'll know how many views we have. So it creates a kind of circular problem. We can't know how many views there are without setting up rendering, but we can't set up rendering without knowing how many views there are. Unless there's a way to figure out how many views there are that I'm not aware of somewhere in WebXR, which there might be. There's a lot of stuff in the spec, a lot of it confusing. So I wanted to think about the caching thing first. That seemed like the most interesting immediate problem. I may want to commit what we have so far to Git just so that I have a record of all of the things we did. So let's do that. Yeah, sure. No, don't do it. Don't do it. No. Do not apply. Ugh. Okay, I'll do no verify. Okay, so this is debug code to get working on quest. Okay. And we're going to remove most of that junk, but it's just nice to have something I can go back to and see what that was later. So the caching thing. Let's go over to, and how much time do we have? We have 25 minutes. Let's see if we can solve this caching issue before we have to call it quits on the stream. So, what if, okay. Go with me on this one, guys. Okay, so we are saying get texture ID. We're returning an ID. The ID kind of doesn't matter? Or no, does the ID matter? Does the ID matter? That is the question. Let me follow this code up. So we say get color texture. All we're returning is a texture ID. So we need to jump into the C++ code here. WebXR interface JS CPP. Okay, and if it's 0, we get we return nothing. Otherwise, we do this get texture method, which has a cache. Okay, what is something we could feed to the other cache that would work, that would be acceptable? Because what we need, if we return a different RID every time, it'll build a new entry in the cache every time. Which is close-ish to what we want, except we don't want that cache to just grow forever, adding a new entry every frame. What if we returned a new RID every frame, but somehow had something in the cache that would make it not explode? Like if it got over a certain size, we'd remove an entry. But what do we remove? Do we add an argument to just disable the cache entirely? But how do we know to pass that argument? Because the code that's actually calling that method on texture storage is in viewport renderer. It's a renderer viewport, which is generic code. It doesn't know that we're in OpenGL. It doesn't know that that we're running WebXR. It just knows, like, here's the textures, call this method. And is clearing the render target really what we want? Because that disposes of the FBO. Clears a bunch of junk that we don't really want to clear. Okay, I'm actually coming back to the idea that maybe what we want to do is pass the FBO into JavaScript land, but that's not going to work either because we don't know it. We don't know it at that point. It's got to be some kind of idea where we limit the cache or disable the cache. we probably want some protections for the cache exploding even beyond this. Like, we don't want to cache forever. So how's a sane way to do this? If the cache gets too big, we can clear the whole thing. I did have some code earlier on that didn't cache, that did do the wasteful thing of just updating the same frame buffer, which I know is theoretically slow, right? I guess I could talk to ClayJohn, who knows way more about rendering than me, and see if like it's really that slow. Because if it's not, maybe that is what we do. From the perspective of WebXR, we never get access to this render target. So we can't do something where we say like, mark this render target as I don't want to cache. We could add a new method to XR interface that says like, do you want to cache? And then return it, and then didn't do this. But like, that only really makes sense in the context of OpenGL, because like Vulkan has its own, Vulkan always caches. It has this like complex like dependency tree caching thing that Juan built at some point. We're gonna have, you know, XR stuff that uses Direct 3D at some point to support the HoloLens. It doesn't make sense to have this one like little thing on there for OpenGL. I do like the idea of throwing out the texture, or of throwing out items in the cache. I just don't know how you pick which things you get rid of, because they're stored in this RB map, which is a red-black tree, so a binary tree. The items aren't in any kind of order. I don't know how we would add an order to them. If we implemented the cache as a linked list instead of a red-black tree, we could move the last used texture to the front of the list or something like that. And then we would know when we've run out of entries that we can put in the cache, we'd remove the one at the end. And then putting it at the front also increases search speed for the most frequently used texture. Which, I don't know, that doesn't even make sense, because the reason that these need to be cached is because it's frequently used for a swap chain. And the way we want it to work in OpenGL land is that we just have like, okay, so if there's three buffers in the swap chain, that means we have 3 FBOs, and we just every frame, you know, go to the next FBO. At least in OpenXR, like that works beautifully. That's what we want. In WebXR land, we apparently need to reattach the color and depth attachments every single frame. And if we return a new RID every time, this cache is just going to grow forever. And that's not good. We could have some kind of heuristic where we say if the cache gets over a certain size, disable caching on this render target, because we're saying, okay, this render target does not behave in a way where it makes sense to cache. That seems a little magical. I don't particularly like writing magical code like that. That might be the best idea that I have, though. Okay, so bool FBO caching enabled equals true. And then okay, so the first thing we do is and if we clear the render target FBO cache, that should re-enable caching. If we got disabled, cache on tape there. So say RT overridden FBO or enable, or hang on, let's rename this. We'll say FBO cache enabled. That actually looks a lot nicer. So true. And I'll go back over here, rename that. So it's, oh, I already did name it that. FBO, or FBO cache enabled. FBO cache enabled. FBO cache enabled. Let's go back to set overridden, or set override. Okay, so we can go back to the old code for the most part. Except we need to say some things here. So we set this, or no, we have to do it even before then. If okay, so if we're switching from not overridden to overridden, clear render target, or RT overridden FBO cache enable, or not FBO cache enabled. So we clear the render target. Then we set this stuff. And now we get down to some caching things. And we're going to say, okay, at what point do we check if the cache is too full? If we check it after we've created the new FBO, then we're just throwing away, well, we're throwing away the old FBOs. So maybe that's actually good. So we're only going to do this cache grabbing stuff if RT overridden FBO cache enabled. And then we update the render target. And then at this point, we need to say if RT overridden FBO cache enabled. So then we'll jump into some cache enabled stuff. And then this adds the new item to the cache, but we need to say, before we do that, we need to make sure the cache is not going to be over full. So RT, we need to say if RT overridden FBO cache size is greater than or equal to, we're going to need to make a constant somewhere. See if we can find some other constants, some other things we can get connected to. A lot of stuff going on in this header file. Default GL texture max. That seems like a thing we care about. No. Or I guess it seems like a constant, but it's not. It's the top of an enum. Well, we could put it not in the header. We could put it here. Oh, geez. What did I did something weird there, didn't I? Yeah, okay. Okay, what if we'll just put a define here? Render. No, that's so weird putting it so far from when it's used. I'm just gonna hard code it. I'm just gonna hard code it for now. Because then at least the thing will be near the place that it's used, and then it won't seem strange to people reading the code later. Okay, if it's greater than or equal to, let's say 5, we'll write a comment here. The FBO cache exists because we are frequently setting overridden textures from a swap chain. However, we don't want the cache to grow forever. A swap chain wouldn't usually have more than 5. Wouldn't usually have 5 or more items, 5 or more, well, buffers, we'll say, or more buffers. So we disable caching for this render target. Okay, so if it is greater than 5, we are going to do, what is the method that clears the FBO cache? Clear render target, overridden FBO cache, and then we do RT overridden FBO cache enabled equals false. And if it's not too many items in the cache, we throw a new item in there. Yeah, I hate this. This is horrible, but I don't know a better way to do it. Maybe I'll come up with something later. It's not totally uncommon for me to try a bunch of different variations of a thing in a PR before I submit it. That was just a scope thing I needed to fix there. Okay. So I think this should work. Code looks right to me. So what this means is, in WebXR, we're going to fill the cache up to 5, and then we're going to say, whoa, this is too many, kill those, and then switch into a mode where every single frame we're rebuilding a new FBO, which isn't as good as, I don't think it's as good as swapping the attachments on a single FBO, at least in this context, because if we're just swapping the attachments on the FBO, that's like 2 lines of code, right? Whereas here we're going to clear the render target and update the render target every time, which is a bunch more lines of code. It's not doing anything that we're not cool with it doing. It's just doing a lot of things that are unnecessary. But I don't know. Get it working first. Think about performance second, perhaps. Compile, my friends. Let's compile this. Let's test it. If it works, we've at least solved one problem. And a future potential problem, if there was some other code that was using that set overridden method and was having the cache balloon for some other reason, right? For something different than what we're dealing with here. Ooh, and we only have 4 minutes left. We're gonna get this one in under the wire. I'm happy though, guys. We accomplished a lot. We accomplished a lot this stream. We're really close to having this working. And I never tested. Well, I can't test my phone yet because we have that thing hard coded to always create a texture array, and we want to make sure that it creates not a texture array. What's the difference between the frame buffer and the draw buffer? So, at least in the context of OpenGL, a draw buffer is just a frame buffer that you've selected to be the draw target for different API calls. So, like in where's this rasterizer GLES3, and actually while I'm explaining this, I'll start this up. But of course it's gonna take over the window. Here we go, Blit. Please let me type things. Blit render target to screen. This was what I was looking for. So here we are copying from the render target to the screen, I think. Yeah, to the screen. And we are taking the system FBO and binding it as the draw frame buffer, which means that when we call GL Blit frame buffer, it's going to draw to this specific frame buffer. So a draw buffer is a frame buffer, but it's just like it's the frame buffer that you've picked to be the target of some future OpenGL API call, if that makes sense. And if that was actually your question. I hope that was actually your question. If not, please let me know and I will correct. Okay, so we did the things. Let me put on the headset. Okay, and we're still connected here. We want to be able to see the console messages. Let me make sure we're still connected, that ADB didn't boot us. Yep, seem to still be connected. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. Enter VR. Oh, flashing and broken. Well, that didn't work. Why not? Oh, because I disabled the caching, but we're still returning the exact same. Well, I made it so it's possible to disable the caching if you have returned more than 5 combinations, but we're still just returning the single combination. So this doesn't get us quite there yet. What can we do to get us there? I think the change is simple. Let's go to WebXR interface. CP. No, not this one. I'm trying to do this really fast so that we can get it done before I gotta bail. Yeah. So we're just gonna not use this cache. Don't do this. And don't do this. And this should now return a unique RID for every single frame. Which is not ideal, but it's fine. Okay, so compile. Awesome. So I did actually answer. The cleans question. Then setting preserve drawing buffer flag could fix flashing in the rendering. I don't think so, because like I said, I think the reason that it's flashing is because there's a swap chain at play here that's hidden from us. It's like really hidden by WebXR. But we're drawing to the first buffer in the swap chain and then not drawing to the second buffer in the swap chain. And since the hardware is just, iterating between, this frame I show this buffer from the swap chain, the next frame I show the next buffer from the swap chain, is just going back and forth. We're crashing before we draw to that second buffer, and so it's alternating between those two buffers, and one of them just happens to be blank, if that makes sense. We would have to like draw something to both textures one way or another to get rid of the flashing. Okay. Where'd my thing go? Do we have to go back in? Ah, the terrible, terrible flashing. Just gonna keep my eyes closed till I can stop it. Okay. Let's refresh here. Is it coming through? It is coming through. Enter VR. Oh, still flashing. What's going wrong here? We're returning a unique RID every single time. Right? And so we should be filling up that buffer. I must have made a mistake. I must have made a mistake in the texture storage code where we're creating those frame buffers. Ah. Set overridden. Override. I'm just gonna see if I can see it. If I can't see it, then I just gotta get going, guys. But if I do see it, we'll give it one more try. Is overridden. If not, is overridden. So if it wasn't overridden before, and the FBO cache is not enabled, then we clear, and then we set these. Oh, this code. Or no, because we are giving a unique one every time. So if this and the cache is overridden, then we do the cache. Didn't cache, we now have to update the render target. Size is greater than or equal to 5. Yo cache enabled equals false. I'm gonna need to put some print statements. Is it possible to fill all the buffers with the same data? Yes, it is absolutely possible. They don't give us the attachments for the next buffer though until the next frame. So at least the way that WebXR is doing it. In OpenXR, you get everything all at once. So if we look at the OpenXR OpenGL extension, we say enumerate swap chain. It gives us everything into this array, and then we're able to iterate over it, and we have every single texture from the swap chain all at once. But in WebXR, it's each frame we call the was it get view sub image? Each frame we're calling get view sub image, which returns to us the texture that we're supposed to use for this frame. And so yeah, we don't know about it in advance. But really, like we should be able to just fix the problem that Godot is crashing and not able to fill that frame buffer. And it's just crashing because the texture like is no longer valid, I guess. I'm wondering if there's a way to, rather than doing all these things with disabling the cache, to just say like clear, always clear the render target between frames. But I don't know if there's, we get into all the same problems I was talking through before. Like we don't have a good way to communicate that to the place that it would need to be communicated. Anyway, I must be doing something wrong in texture storage that's causing it to, for some reason, still go to the cache, where it just shouldn't. It just shouldn't be caching this. We're returning a unique texture and a unique color texture and depth texture every single frame, so it should not be able to cache this. I don't know. I will be working on that over the next bunch of days. Unfortunately, I do have to get going. Thanks everyone for coming to the stream. This was a really great stream. It was great chatting with everyone, and it was great being able to like discuss problems and make theories and have them be right. And yeah, I hope everyone has a great weekend. Take care, and I will talk to you on Discord or next week. Thanks everyone. Bye-bye.